G'day YouTubers, how you all going? My name's Wilfred, West Wilfred's PC World, Lakeside Cottage in Lochsport, Victoria, Australia. Today's date is the 21st of the 2nd, 2014, and it's, let's say 5 past 1 in the afternoon, and it's 21 outside. Now, reason why I have the camera this way, so I want to do a sort of a podcast. We'll do it as we're driving along, because I want to go up the street. And it's today's announcement I heard from the Government General today about this so-called mega data retrenchment. You know what I mean? Can't pronounce it, retrenchment, holding the mega data for 2 years, right? It's kind of well, stupid, really. He says it's there to help protect Australians and their security of Australia. But how is it there to help protect Australia? This is the question I'm asking, right? Is ASIO going to be sniffing at it every single day, or once a month, or once a year, just to have, or once every 6 months, to have a look into this data and say, oh well, there's some terrorist actions, we're going to have a look into this and stop that, and so forth? If the answer is no, right, because they're saying, oh, the law enforcement officers won't be looking into it and stuff like that, it's only there for the people to keep it there to look at it, say, for emergency matters. Like, they want to keep the data, so if something happens, they can probably trace it back to where it came from. So to answer the first question, does it keep us safe? The answer is no. Okay, and I'll prove an example. A terrorist attacks somebody anywhere in Australia, right? They blow up a building or they kill some people or whatever, right? This data has been held for 2 years. We'll have their records and all that on Facebook and so forth and all that wonderful stuff. Okay? So, but it hasn't stopped the terrorist because he's already done the action. Alright? This is the problem. Okay? So, my next question then is, alright, what is the government's purpose in keeping this data for 2 years? It solves no purpose. You might be able to stop a crime, you might be able to stop a crime, but you might be able to solve a crime after it's been committed. So basically we can't, it's absolutely pointless, you know what I'm saying? Now, another thing I'm talking about, the Government generally gets what, $250-something thousand a year as in pay. That actually went up by Tony Abbott. He actually increased that. Now the government is saying, oh no, we're going to be needing a pay cut and so forth, and we're going to have to tighten our belts. I should not say they need a pay cut, but they're going to say we need to tighten our belts and so forth and all this, and make it harder for the Australians to, well, basically squeeze more money out of a stone, you could say. And they're only looking after, they're only really affecting the lower and middle class people, not the higher class, or so-called higher class, the higher paid, I should say, or themselves, or big business, right? And when I say big business, the government is trying to pass a law in the Senate. I think it's trying to pass a couple of laws in the Senate. It's one where that if an Australian government changes a law, right, that affects a business, right, that this law could say make the environment better by saying putting more restrictions onto a business, saying, well, you're polluting so much, we want you to stop polluting, we want to get you to help the environment. Now, if the government does something like that in the future, this law they're trying to pass in the Senate will stop that happening. You change the law, this company then can be able to sue you for loss of income because you're forcing them, like the big tobacco, for a big example, you're forcing tobacco businesses to cover up their packets, and then big tobacco going, oh no, that's going to affect our income. Well, you're killing people, so that's beside the point. Big tobacco and all that. Now, if the government's so-called serious about this help, trying to reduce the deficit and so forth, how about them taking a pay cut? How about them freezing? First of all, if Tony Abbott turns around and said tomorrow, right, I'm going to freeze all politicians' wages. No one in our term will get, in this term or the next time we get elected, will get a pay rise. Then I might consider voting for Liberals for the first time in my entire life. If he turned around and said, right, I'm going to reduce the income of all politicians by taking a quarter of their pay off them, by giving them a pay cut, I would actually vote for it. Right? I won't vote for Joe Hockey ever again because he's a fool. Right? When he says, oh no, the poor people can't afford to have cars, or if they can, they can't afford to drive very far. Right? Where do most poor people live? They live in the countryside, they live in the bush areas, they live there. Right? You don't find some poor person living in Turak or something like that. Okay? I would actually vote Liberals if they actually did that. But the reason why I won't vote Liberals is because all they do is looking after themselves. They're looking after big business. They don't give a shit about anybody earning, say, anything under $100,000 a year, I'd say would be considering they don't care about. They'll tax you every way they can, and they'll find a way to make your life uncomfortable. That's just my personal opinion. Other people may agree or may not agree with me. But what I'm trying to answer before now, there's another law they're trying to pass in the Senate. One of these Liberal supporters, right? One of these Liberal senators, kind of a thing. Another interesting law. You know what happened to the greyhound races and all that? That these people managed to go in there with authority, with the police, right, to do an undercover sting, right? And yes, it was put on TV, which I think it was a good thing that shows the rest of Australia what these particular people are doing, right? So this person wants to make a new law in the Senate, right, that changes certain things. Like that person, people who did that can be prosecuted, right, because it affected the greyhounds' income, right? That's kind of stupid. They're breaking the law in the first place. This is the thing I find funny. These people who bloodied the pig and had the live rabbits and all that, and tied them up and had the greyhounds chasing them, were breaking the law in the first place. For them to make a profit off that, right, and then turn around saying, oh, you affected our profit by trespassing, filming it and putting it on TV without going to the police, right, it's affected our profit, right? It's kind of ridiculous. Because it's like saying, oh, that's like saying Chopper. Oh, it's okay, Chopper, you've killed all those people, you've done the time and all that. Oh, it's okay, you can make a book and make profit from it. Exactly the same thing. They've broken the law in the first place to make a profit. Okay? Like the old days when the greyhound owners used to get a bit of speed and put it onto the noses of the dogs to get them a bit high so they can actually get that extra speed they can get out of the dogs. I mean, they're profiting from breaking a law. And this senator wants to make a law so they can profit to break the law, right? And sue your ass if you trespass and film them breaking the law, right? By doing that. And then of course if it affects their business, they can then sue you again, right? Because it affected their income, but they were breaking the law. There's an irony there somewhere, I don't know what, but there is. Now I've looked at a lot of things and I talked a lot of things about today and about our politicians and stuff like that. And I'll probably talk some more things about them as time goes on. I've got my own personal views on this. And I've got my own personal views on how this country should be run and a lot of other things, right? One of them is the independent senator, I think it was, conversation about the car money going from the car companies. So they're donating money to car companies, right, which produce fumes and shit like that, and stuff like that. And why not help independents, or why not put more money into solar panels, renewable energies, right? Look at the sunny day we're having today, right? If every new house, right, ever built has you say to them has to put either solar panels on or wind power on it, right, to help the environment. A, it helps the environment, B, it helps the economy, and C, it helps with electricity, right? So it's a win-win over win-win-win, right? If you made a law that every house has to have a certain amount of solar panels or wind turbines on their property or on their house, their electricity bill, of course, is going to be next to nothing to run it. The excess power goes into the grid, so that's fine. And you save on the environment. So everybody there is a winner. That would be a good law to pass. But then, of course, what you do is you put money from other sources, like from where you're going to put the car and that, or instead of subsidising other things, you give money to the people who make the solar panels in Australia, right? And you help them out, right? And that encourages that. You know what I mean? That would actually give you votes. That would actually create work and give you votes to be good for the environment. Building these submarines, as I said before, overseas is a joke. But Tony Abbott, you don't give a shit about Australia, nor do you give a shit about Australian infrastructure or people who want to work here in Australia. Okay? You don't give jobs to overseas people. Oh no, it's going to save us money. That's regardless of the point. If it costs a little bit more money to manufacture it here, right, that money's coming back into our community, back into our country. Right? People who you hire, instead of spending less, they're going to spend more money because they've got a job. Right? And they're going to basically give more money back into the local community. So more money back into your coffers. Through taxes and everything else like that. So, as far as I look at it, we've got to keep jobs in Australia for Australians and for the community. Now, another thing I'm going to talk about is the packaging of these stupid laws we have at the moment, right? They have to be changed where it says, I like to know where my food comes from. I like to know where was it grown, where was it packaged, right, and the dates they were done. Right? I'd love to see that on packaging. This is one thing my pet hate. Walk into Coles or walk into almost any supermarket you find in Australia, right, and walk up to the bacon section, and you come across, say, pack of bacon you pick up, and you go, oh yeah, it looks like a nice bit of bacon, right, and it's made from local and imported ingredients. Now, what is a local ingredient? What is the imported ingredient? Is it the plastic that's local, or is it the paper that's local? A little bit of water in there that's a local ingredient? You don't know where that bacon's come from. You don't know if it was held in a shed all its life and it had no sunlight on it. Like, there is Australian bacon out there. At least I know that's made. The bacon comes from Australia. It has less fat on it, which is annoying, but yeah, can't be helped. But I'd like to know where my products come from. I'd like to know if I buy something, if it's made in Australia, I know it's 100% made in Australia, or owned by an Australian company and also made in Australia. I don't want to see it, oh god, it's made in China, like those berry scare we've got at the moment. So that's another thing the government should be looking at. I've got some more things I was going to think about at the moment, and I'll get back to you as we drive along. And still getting used to this little car. It's a beautiful car to drive, I tell you. that's it. Anyway, I'll continue on talking. But as I said before, I'd like to see where all my products come from. If they're made in Australia, made from overseas, or packaged in from overseas and then I go, so it comes from one country, then goes packaged in another country, and then comes here. Okay, no matter, regardless of what product it is. Okay, welcome back, YouTubers. Continue on for a drive, and we'll have a look at what's around town and so forth. Now, going back to my conversation we're having before and stuff like that, and we know how bad the government is. Being honest with you, I know we had to punish Labour for what they did, but we really had to vote the Liberals in. I'd actually give my vote to Clive Palmer for running for Prime Minister of Australia than Liberal or Labour at the moment. At least he's not asking, he's actually not taking any money. He's not getting paid for his job. Another politician's not getting paid for his job. He doesn't want money for it. Right? Now, you've got to say your hats off to a person like that. You know he doesn't need the money. Even if he did need the money and turned around and said that, your hat would be off to him, you know what I mean? You know he's doing it for some of his own interest, of course, but he's also doing it for the greater good of Australia. Now, so if Clive Palmer ran for Prime Minister, I would vote for him. Now, let's talk about some more things with Liberal or Labour wants to do and all that. Well, actually, what I think they should do. Now, we're having a problem with Ukraine at the present moment, ISIS and so forth. This is something that it's a tricky situation. Personally, I would send troops into the Ukraine. Right? I'd get the United Nations in there and say, fuck you, Russia. Right? There's people suffering in there. There's people dying in there. There's innocent people dying there because some people want to be part of Russia, some people don't want to be part of Russia. Some people want to have an independent country from Ukraine or Russia. Regardless of the ideological things, regardless of their political views or religious views or anything else, right? What the UN should do is move in there with full force, right? Preferably with Russians backing, but if Russia doesn't help them, stuff Russia, right? Send in troops in there as a peacekeeper. Find the border lines and disarm both groups, or disarm the area that they're fighting in and put UN troops there. If the UN troops get fired upon by either side, right, they should have the right to say them to fire back at them in self-defense. Right? They're there to help the people. They're there to make sure no more innocent people die. Right? And yeah, Russia probably crack the shits and wave their sword in the air and cry foul and saying the UN shouldn't be involving themselves in that. Right? But that's just Russia. Who cares a shit? Right? The UN's doing it for a greater good, not just to please Russia. Right? So that's my personal opinion there. Now, ISIS is in the same thing, same boat. All the Arab nations that saying that they are Muslim, but they do not support this terrorist group, should band together and form one united Arab nation army. Right? And that sole purpose of the army, air force, or navy, right, would be to eliminate, with extreme prejudice, ISIS. Now, if they turn around and reformed the one united Arab army, right, they're fighting for Muslims everywhere, they're fighting for Christians everywhere, they're fighting for humanity. Regardless of religious belief or what colour your skin is, we're all humans. We all come from the same area on Earth. Our DNA has put us from Africa, every single human on Earth. Right? way, the ideological saying, you're black, I'm white, you're Asian or whatever, that's just stupid. Right? It's all human, that's the first thing. Regardless of what you believe in, we're all human. I don't care if you're Christian, Muslim, or whatever, or Catholic, or Hindu, Buddhism. I don't care about that. Right? That's besides the point of what you are, who you are. I would treat you just the same as I would treat anybody else. Right? I will show you the same respect. The door will be open just helping you out, as in helping out a Christian or a white person or Aboriginal, because we're all one. Right? Now, first of all, the government of Australia should publicly help set up things, people who wish to go fight for ISIS. Right? Help set up a community where counselling would be the word I'd use for it. If they turned around and started to, let's say you want to go to overseas and fight ISIS, right? Or fight for ISIS or fight against ISIS, regardless of what your regardless of what your beliefs is. That's what you want to do, right? Let's say you approach your Muslim leader or whatever you say that. So he sets you up with a counsellor, with the government's help, and the community's help getting the right counselling. So you do 6 months of counselling, and you think after 6 months you still want to fight for ISIS. We should be able to pass a law here in Australia where it says, okay, you can go fight for ISIS, but once you leave your country, you don't get the passport, you're no longer Australian citizen. Now, the international law states that you're not supposed to have a non-citizen. Well, they're a citizen. They're a citizen of ISIS. Right? Let them fight for ISIS. Let them die for a stupid reason. Okay? ISIS is not there to help people or to make the world better. They're there to basically just to control things, right? To control the world. And they're not there for religious beliefs or anything else like that. That's just a joke. Right? That's just an excuse to basically rape, religion plunge, or control people. Okay? So that's my personal opinion on what the government should do with that. Okay? The government can turn around and say, well, we've done everything we can. We've tried everything we can to do that. Now, that brings me to another interesting subject. Bali 9, right? I personally think we shouldn't be interfering with Indonesia. Like I say, if I was, hypothetically, if I was the Prime Minister, I'd turn around and say to Indonesia, saying, we don't approve of you killing, well, our Australian citizens. Even though what they've done is wrong. But is there a way we could possibly do, say, prison exchange, or find something in a way we could say they don't die, they either stay in prison for the rest of their lives and they help people out. Now, I understand their law stated, or their system stated that if they rehabilitate themselves, right, they would what do you call it? They wouldn't be executed. They would probably stay in prison and stuff like that. And so we know that's a fallacy, right? But anyway, let's say this president of the Philippines just said, "Oh no, they got to die." We as Australians have to respect that. We as Australians have to say, well, fair enough. That's their law. We've got to respect their law. next fall in, so to speak. Got to get reversing camera on this thing soon. Like, we voted Tony Abbott and he's party in, and we're going to vote him out again next election. The reason why I'm saying that, because Tony Abbott does not care about the majority of Australians, which are poor and middle class. Right? He does not care about it, nor do the Liberals care about it. Oh, that's close. Now, I've got to go out tonight to get it anyway. It's close. Perfect parking. Just going to pull out to the left a little bit when I leave. Yeah. I will talk some more. Yeah, I hope you liked the video. If you do like this video, please subscribe. My name's Wilfred West, Wilfred's PC World, Lakeside Cottage in Lochsport, Victoria, Australia, signing off. You all have a great day now. Thank you for watching.